Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is for mature audiences and may contain language that'll make you blush, cry, or fire off a strongly worded email to human resources. It's definitely not workplace friendly, unless your job sucks, in which case, crank up the volume and let's make it interesting.
Predictable podcasts. There's a million of them out there, babbling about the same old boring stuff. But trust me, my friend, this is not one of them. This is Diary of a Bald Man. He's bald, and he's completely off his damn rocker, and I love that about him. Safety, dinosaurs, relationships, the many uses of a can of Raid in the bedroom. Hold on. Did I read that right? What the f*** happened there? All right. Let's do this. Welcome to Diary of a Bald Man. Now your host, the cue ball himself, Allen Woffard.
Have you ever had one of those periods of time where you just weren't too sure or exactly comfortable with the feeling or a situation? And if you think about it, how often does that occur? Is your confidence lacking? Is your abilities in yourself not fully loaded like you think they would be or like you're comfortable with them being? I've had a day like that. I actually had a week like that. I was looking at, some of the things that occurred when I came back to Tennessee from my time in the Marshall Islands, and I started getting back into consulting. So that's what I do. I'm a senior safety consultant, and I advise and support clients and their team members with anything related to safety and hazard communication and, just a work environment and being prepared for like an OSHA visit, things like that, developing manuals. Well, what happened, at least in my view, was suddenly clients just started disappearing. And so within me, I started thinking, what am I doing that's not helping them to succeed? Or what am I doing that would want them to pull away? Only to find out that the middleman, the company that we were supporting on their insurance side that was assisting them with workman's comp, things like that, had pulled out. And with that, the clients that I was working with. So that kind of hit, that brought into my core. Okay, so it wasn't me, it was what I'm doing, but did I have any impact? Did I cause that? So think about things that you're doing, when you're working. Do you have people suddenly pulling back or withdrawing? Is it something they feel that would be better suited by another individual, maybe another handler, another professional within your trade or industry? And it gets into you a mindset of questioning yourself, questioning your competency. And in that term affects your confidence in yourself. Think about when you're at home, you're trying to correct the dog. I do this all the time. I'll get on the dogs, but because I spoil them and I look the other way when they're humping the cat, the wife has to step up. And it's like, well, hell, why do they listen more to her? Is it because she tunes them up, smacks them on the ass and sticks them in the corner when I'm trying to get them treats and use that positive, reinforcement? Which ends up just coming to bite me in the ass. So it's not too infrequent when we think about our environments and we're in. Maybe the kids listen to the mom better. Sometimes the kids listen to themselves better, right? Big sister knows what she's talking about. Little brother is just a complete fuckhead. Who knows what's going on? But then when we look at that, we currently and futurely will question ourselves. What was the impact I made? Was it a positive? Was it a negative? Did I turn my son gay? Or was it somebody else, Arnold Schwarzenegger? Somebody else. No, I'm not saying Arnold Schwarzenegger's gay, but the fact that they're looking at somebody in a very masculine, physically well-defined things. You don't know. You lose certain sights of yourself and take in what a lot of people perceive you to be, right? One of the things that some actors have said is, I don't care what people think about me. I'm not going to carry that burden. I'm not going to carry that weight. But we think about it, right? We look at our neighbors. We see how successful they are. They may have 2 fishing boats, a couple of campers, a Jeep, a rock crawler. Not a Jeep rock crawler, but a rock crawler. What do you call them? T-Rexes, little 4-wheeler type things. And so we're constantly looking at our environment and saying, why don't I have that? Why can't I accomplish that? Recently I was looking at some secondary income trying to, help the family because it's just crazy with the economy right now, and so more and more things cost. And I have to look because of my age, where I'm 50 plus, I look 18. If you really fucking squint, it's dark and everything, I really do look 18 to like 70. I don't know. Depends on how impaired your vision is. But it's these things that we consider. I'm getting older. What am I going to leave for my wife? What am I going to leave for the kids? The fuck? What am I leaving for these fucking dogs who I spoil? Now the wife's got to do it. So that extra money she was putting to the side, to help the kids out or to do something for the house so it's more comfortable. Because remember, your environment has a lot to play in what you're thinking, what you're doing, how you respond, and how you feel. So, again, coming back, worrying about losing clients because they were just pulling out. It just shook me to the core. And luckily, my great manager, Katy Perry, not the singer. I mean, she probably could sing. I don't fucking know if she can even carry a tune in a bucket. But a veteran herself, just a great boss, similar to, the other great management that I worked with when I first came on to East Coast, Risk Management, now Keystone. But Don Blanchard, he was like, man, you talk funny, you do odd shit, but you're a great worker. And Katie was supportive and, reminding, again, because the people in your environment, they help get that mindset, not out of the gutter, fuck, I'm stuck there forever, but out of that mindset that I'm a failure, I can't do this. So today's show is about confidence and how our environment, the things we see, the own shit that we put into our heads can affect us and diminish the life that you have. You're not looking at the positive stuff you have. Like I look at my wife, she does amazing things with our house and our environment on a limited budget with the number of hours she works, things like that. But I wanted to add to it. But I've been rejected for additional work not because of my age. That'd be age discrimination. Then I'd fucking sue them and have a lot of money and neither one of us work again. But, people sue for all kinds of weird shit these days. You feel like Bonnie Blue and just like 1,000 fucking guys are trying to get on top and get a piece of you. And I only recently learned who Bonnie Blue was because of TikTok. And I'm like, holy shit. What kind of stress is she under that she has to get 1,000 individuals to participate in filming and events and things like that? Don't Google it. Fucking don't do that, especially while you're not at work. Wait until you're back at home, get your wife, sit down, Google the hell out of it. But, the balls on that bitch has got to be huge. No disrespect. I couldn't fuck 1,000 dudes or let them into my environment, things of that nature. But again, it's that confidence, and that's what today's show is about, confidence. So when we get back, we're going to look at things that break us down. Is it your physical things like my PAD or peripheral arterial disease? Is it my age? Is it things like that? But again, nobody told me that. It's the simple thing that when I applied for these extra jobs to bring in extra money, because now I need to get more life insurance so it doesn't take away from my wife and family when I die. And when we get back, let's look at ways that we can boost our confidence, the things that drop the confidence that we already have, and how we could live a better life. And we'll get back to that in just a moment. Don't go away. I'll fucking hunt you down, I swear to God, because your IP address will show up and Spotify will let me know. Hold on. We'll be back.
Stop the search for something intellectual and fulfilling. You've tuned into the diary of a bald man, and there is no going back. Let the moaning, groaning, and bitching begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, brothers and beauties, welcome back to the Diary of Bald Man. If you didn't already know it, this is Allen Woffard, which translates into most languages, here's that motherfucker that causes trouble everywhere he goes. That's kind of like the long version, so I go by Allen, dumbass, baldy. You know, just go out there and talk the way you walk. So let's talk about it. Again, this show is about confidence. So the fact that confidence isn't just about feeling good on a particular day, it's about owning your space and refusing to let the external influences dictate your self-worth, right? You hold your own value. Nobody else does. If you see that you've got $1 million smile, don't put out a 50-cent grin. You've got more, so throw it out there. The world will always have opinions. I mean, think about it. If you're too skinny, they say, oh, you're not eating well. You have a disease. You have cancer. You have some kind of autoimmune deficiency. You know, and then if you're big, oh, you're a diabetic, you're bulky, you're fat, you know, you don't eat well, you do this. No matter what you do for yourself, somebody else, we do it too. I'm a judgmental bastard sometimes when people see people dressing up in fucking pajamas, going out to Walmart and restaurants. I'm like, you have no respect for yourself. Not for the people you're going around, but you have no respect for yourself where you're going to say, hey, I'm a valuable person. I'm just wearing $3 pants that I've got at Walmart, Kmart, or wherever. Nothing against that. But don't go out shopping and standing around like that. Fucking have respect for yourself. Show that you are confident, but not doing it with your bitches halfway around your ass with everything hanging out. You know, and just like me, the world's always going to have opinions. But why should they outweigh your own? So let's dive into how to build and maintain confidence like a fucking fortress, right? Because that's what we are. We're a fortress. But when we think about it, again, you know, your thoughts and the stuff from your environment have a lot of influence on us. So don't say, well, I'm fat, or I'm lazy, or I'm this. Because when you constantly doubt yourself, or you use phrases like I can't, or I'm not able to, or I'm limited by this, you can rewire your brain for insecurity. And remember, if you have positive thoughts and you have positive energy, you're going to attract other positive things, right? Positive, negative, yeah, kind of like magnets. I'm going to think about that. So you have to flip it over and it pushes away. So if you're pushing on something, you're going to push away because you say, I can't pull this in. I can't attract this individual, right? So the self-talk goes into self-thought. So you're saying, well, I'm not sitting around talking to myself like that, but you're thinking it, you're internalizing it, okay? So then when we talk to others, you know, let's look at that. It's in relationships. It could be personal relationship, professional relationship, and your environment. So surrounding yourself with people who belittle or undermine you erodes your self-worth over time because, you know, once you keep seeing green lights, you know to go. Once you see a red light, it tells you stop. But these are cautionary statements, right? They're saying, motherfucker, you're not worth a shit. And then after a while, you start to look down. You put your head down because you're carrying that weight on your neck because your head is overloaded with all these negative things. And again, it erodes your self-worth over time. So that environment, get out of it. Toxic relationships, get out of it. You know, you could be independent for a while. You don't have to surround yourself with people. Again, you're not Bonnie Blue. You're not trying to take on a lot of people and hold their interest for a period of time. And again, that's my own personal opinion. Nothing against Bonnie Blue. You know, obviously she has a different level of confidence. So maybe look at that as not as an inspiration, but what is she doing to feel so strongly about herself that, hey, I can attract all these individuals and, you know, have this type of social presence and they admire me for it. Maybe it's intense curiosity. So when we're thinking about that, you know, the people around us, stop comparing yourself to the Joneses. You know, whether it's on social media or societal pressures, you're at the golf course and some guy's got a nice set of Callaways and you're still swinging the things you got at the dollar store. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They make it easy to fall into the trap of feeling that you have less than what they do. So he has a set of Callaways. You're both at Topgolf. All you're doing is hitting a fucking ball, driving it out. Swing that bitch. You may have the cheaper end of the clubs and you have to replace it because you cracked it or you shattered the shaft or ripped off the handle. But so what? They had to buy a Big Bertha to do the things that you're doing with a putter. So quit comparing yourself to them and saying, well, I don't have this fancy set. You're the fancy. That's just a tool in your hand. But then, again, when we think of tools, people think I'm going to do woodwork. Well, don't go get metalworking things. The lack of preparation, confidence thrives on competence. Competence. Not preparing for challenges can make you feel insecure and hesitant, right? So you're getting ready to drive and you're going to do something. Check your tire pressure. You're going to check your oil. You're going to check your gas. You're going to put Rain-X on your windshield. So as you're commuting through Knoxville or whatever the fuck you're at, rain comes down, you're prepared. You lose a wiper, you can still see because the Rain-X. Unfortunately, you got to go 40 miles an hour or so slow down by the schools unless you're going to have these little shits bouncing off your fender. Don't do that. That's somebody else's little shit, and they love them very much. So another thing that erodes on our confidence is poor posture and body language, right? Because as you're walking through, you got your shoulders down, your head's down because you're like, man, I can't look at these people. I'm not trying to make eye contact because I don't want to feel less in their eyes. Don't worry about that. Imagine everybody that you're walking by is utterly naked. You're going to be smiling, well, on some of them, because some of them chubby fuckers you're not going to want to, especially when you notice that they don't have large knees. That's their tits slouched down over their laps. Excuse me. But slouching, avoiding eye contact, that's going to make people look at you too and say, what the hell is wrong with that dude? He may be hurting, But that closed off body language, because if you remember last podcast, we were talking about body language. If you see the toes pointing in the direction, hey, they're wanting to do this. If their arms are crossed, they may need that, self-assurance. They need to feel hugged, things like that. So body language plays a lot. So if they interpret that, remember what I said in the last podcast, they're going to mirror that. If you're like humble and you're not looking approachable, they're not going to approach you. They're going to be like, yeah, there's something wrong with this individual. So now you've got an even larger boundary between people you're trying to communicate and engage with because they feel like you're insecure. And they don't want to, dwell on your insecurities because if you're not confident to be in there and be around them, hey, watch that body posture and body language. Tilt your head back, stand straight. Unless you have, sclerosis or you have something fucked up with your back, I apologize. Just wear something that says, I'm bending over so I can see your feet. I don't know. Do something to build yourself up. But a couple of the things, again, we talk about the brain because what we think and what we say, we reinforce. So the big thing with the brain is sleep deprivation, poor diet, alcoholism. Like the other day, one of the babies came over and was playing with Rhonda and I, and it was a little chilly outside, and Papa, your nose is red and it's pink. I couldn't just say, well, that's because I drink wine all the time. I'm a fucking alcoholic. You don't tell a child that. But they notice these things. So a tired brain and body that are worn down by lack of sleep, poor diet, we're more susceptible to self-doubt and emotional instability. That's where when people say they get hangry, because they're hungry and all, same thing. If you're low on minerals, if you're low on fats and things like that, you get lethargic. You don't feel compelled. You don't feel able to go out and do things, And so we sit there and we're like, man, I'm just a failure. And then we dwell on it. Learning from failure is productive. Same thing when I got, denied jobs and things like that because I didn't have a college degree or I didn't fit this, timeline that they had and conceived to be, hey, this is the best for this. We're not going to try and advance into things. I never wanted to go into fucking safety. I hated safety people. Well, I didn't hate them. Yeah, I did. Bossy little fuckers came around with clipboards and things because they wanted to check off. Are you wearing slip-resistant soles? Are you standing too close to the aircraft? Do you have a high-visibility vest on so they can, target towards you, come to you, and do this? But we obsess over all the things we want, right? And again, I never wanted to be a fucking safety guy. It never came to me. But I found out I'm very good at it. So why do I fight it? Because I never wanted to be one. But here I am. Now I'm consulting. Now I'm doing great things. But again, that goes into our own psychology. Same with you. Look at your craft or trade or what you're doing. Because somewhere in your mind, you found out, man, I'm really good at this. So your confidence in that came from a mental game. You saw your work. People appreciated your work. You were paid for that. So by being paid and being acknowledged, that increased your confidence in yourself. There's a doctor named Albert Bandura's theory of self-efficacy. So the belief in your ability directly influences your performance. So I believe I can weld. You know what? I got my route. It's been inspected. It's checked. Now I'm filling it in. So everything's, in a linear path, right? So you believe in ability. Now you can do your performance and it's going to be outstanding. And the more you prove to yourself, you can handle the challenges, right? Oh shit, I had to grind this down, start all over. Or this piece of wood was too large. You saw what happened and you adapted. You trimmed the wood, you ground out that weld, you hit it again. And the more you see that you could take whatever's fucking thrown at you, fix it, repair it, bend it, break it, whatever, the stronger your self-assurance becomes. Because everything's in a mindset shift. Dr. Carol Dweck's book on mindset, The Psychology of Success, emphasizes that importance of the growth of a mindset. If you believe you can improve because you got up, right? You got up, you beveled your pipe. I'm talking in terms for, the hands that listen to the show. What if you're a housekeeper? You get in and there's a tip. The tip was because you made that bed awesome. They went into the bathroom and there wasn't piss and shit stains all over the sink like there was at the Holiday Plus that they stayed at a month prior. You're halfway there. The little things that we see, if you go in with a positive mindset and you say, hey, this room's a disaster, I can change that. That builds your confidence. Or you say, hey, I've got 3 ingredients, but I can make a frickin' 2-course meal out of this. You have to see the potential. And with that, you'll get the mind shift that they talk about. So if you ever struggle with that, think about the positive things. Think about quotes that famous people said, like Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So remember, when you're going into a group of people, don't slouch, make eye contact, stare at the tits, whatever. At least get above their shoe line. You can't feel inferior or you can't feel like you're less than the others unless that you want them to make you feel that. You have to absorb it. Other than that, you say, I know you're staring at me. Is it because of my sweet pajama bottoms I just got? Yeah, and the reason I wore it, it's hot as fucking hell. I got to air the naughty bits out, so that you can enjoy them later. Catch them off guard, throw them off guard, change their mindset. They'll laugh, and because you're seeing it, you're going to mirror that same response. You're going to start laughing. Henry Ford said it best. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That positive influence. If I can make this person laugh, I'm in. That's very true. If I can make this person cry, it's because they're in a position I was. They already felt a little down. They already felt a little awkward. So now I need to build them up to where I'm at, and they'll reflect that back. Remember, it's called mirroring. But Peter McIntyre said, confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong. Make mistakes. It's a learning tool. It's something that's going to help you build. Remember, we're talking about welding. You had to grind that shit out. You had to do another route. But, the thing is if you trip, you can always get back up. You could not have fell if you were not already standing. So it's not a permanent thing. Okay? So how do we get into that, where we have that constant or continuous or that ability to stand up mentally? Well, that's the simple part. A lot of the times, like if I'm getting ready to do something, I remember when I was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, one of the things they did just before a PT test and during the PT test was to play music to inspire you. It was always fucking rocky. I hated the fucking soundtrack. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. That didn't make me run faster. Now, when they switched over to rock and roll, it was like boom, 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 boom. Getting that stuff four time. Fuck yeah. I was a runner back in the day. Push-ups. You're knocking it out. So get that headspace going. But sometimes our headspace is screwed up because of our diet, our drinks, our lack of sleep. So let's talk about things we can put into us to help keep that mental motivation, mood boosting supplements, things like that. The first is magnesium. You want to look, there's different magnesium types, but magnesium helps regulate mood and reduce anxiety. Same thing with ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen that reduces stress. So if your stress is going up, your cortisol is going up, and you're going to put on weight, right? And not the muscular weight from you doing PT to the sound of Rocky. It's from the stress of listening to that shit over and over and over. But then the things we need to look at too are B vitamins, especially B12. B is essential for brain function and energy levels. Remember, if you've got a higher brain level, you're going to get that energy too, because your brain's going to say, let's go, let's go. That's one of the reasons I love dark chocolate, especially cacao or dark chocolate cocoa, rich in flavonoids that enhance brain function, improve mood, and stem cells, helps generate stem cells. You ought to look into that. Dark chocolate combined with some magnesium. Excuse me. We're talking about essential stuff. Like with my coffee, I will grind up dark chocolate or put dark chocolate powder. So I'm getting the effects of the caffeine. I'm getting the dark chocolate with the flavonoids. I'm getting the, magnesium that comes out of it. And that's like really, really good for the mental mood. And with that mental comes physical ability. You're not going to be lethargic. Your cortisol's not going to go up. You're not going to be crazy. I mean, it really does help. But then let's think about something you could chew on too. So walnuts. If you look at a walnut, it looks like a brain, right? Crack that fucker open and chew on it. And salmon is packed with omega-3s that boost cognitive function and mental clarity. And you want that as you get older. You want to definitely get your omega-3s in there because that helps with the brain. So now we've looked at improving the morale with music, improving with some basic supplements and things like that. But if you take vitamins, again, check with your primary care physician, your veterinarian, your midwife, somebody that's got more fucking common sense than you do, because you can't mix some things. It's like with heart medication. Really, you shouldn't drink grapefruit juice. It's a great muscle relaxer, but your fucking heart's a muscle, so don't, negate one of the other things out. So now that we got the brain going, let's look at some of the activities. So Amy Cuddy, remember we were talking about your physical stance and stuff like that. Well, Amy Cuddy has a thing called the power pose. So standing in a superhero stance for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, because it's that physical stance, can increase your testosterone and lower cortisol, making you feel more powerful. And all it is a stance. But when you're physically standing there, mentally, you're thinking of Superman. Hell, do Spider-Man. You can crouch down and get on one hand. I have to do that sometimes because my legs give out due to the PAD. But I'm still getting in that power pose. But while I'm doing it, I'm just wearing my Garfield underwear and probably, some inappropriate stocks with images on it. We're not going to discuss on the show. We talk about every fucking thing on the show. But try the power pose. Look up Amy Cuddy. That's C-U-D-D-Y. So then, boosting activities. Think about the hell yes or no rule. If something isn't a hell yes, it's a hard and fast no. Stop being a people pleaser. So where this goes in is someone says, hey, you want to do this, or let's go here, don't be a pussy, get out, don't get involved with somebody that's putting you on the line. Either you're stepping on it, you're walking on it, or you're falling over the side. If you don't say hell yeah because you're mentally into it, don't go. Just say no. Because if you go out there and you lack the confidence in yourself to have a good time, remember, people around you are going to mirror what you do. So if you look pissed off, you look tired, they're going to do it. And then guess who they're going to blame? That's right, motherfucker. They're blaming you and I. Okay? So with me, I do a podcast. For you, let's look at a journal. Look at every night. You don't have to have a diary. You could just get a simple pad of paper. And I know some people use Post-it notes because they're like, okay, everything negative, I'm writing down so I'm not going to bed with it in my head. But write down, instead of negative things so you're not taking it out, write down 3 things you did. You petted a dog that came by you. You held the door open for some old lady. You were checking out her ass. Don't fucking lie. But, you were checking that out. But you held the door open. You talk to, the cash register operator because they look like they're having a shitty day. The lady before you was a Karen, And now you're trying to put her into a better frame set and say, man, I really like the way you did that. Thank you. Give gratitude, receive gratitude. But observe how people respond differently to you because, it's the same thing when you mirror. If they're grumpy and you give grumpy, it's going to be, a grumpy reprisal. They're going to see that your shitty mood is because it's theirs and they don't know it, but you're that mirror, so you're putting back. So a way to change that is the fake it till you make it. For a day, pretend you're the most confident person in the room. You go up, you know everybody. You just go up, hey, you come up to me. It's like, Allen, you suck as a safety, but I really love your outfit. I love the gear, the high visibility vest. It drew me like a flame to the fire. You're just magnetic. Not only will you get people to laugh, they'll be curious. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? And now they want to come up to you because you have that persona. They saw somebody that just walked up to everybody. You got me laughing because you said your vest draws me in like a moth to a flame, whatever it is. So that's going to make them want to come over and mirror what you're doing because that way they get the same reactions. Walk, talk, and act like someone who owns their greatness. You own that room. And then observe how people respond differently to you. Fuck, you're going into the bank to make a 50-cent deposit. Act like it's, $500,000. Just go in, be contagious, be what everybody else wants to be. And it's just in your personality and your stature. So if you don't know how to achieve it, there are some great books and literature for confident mindset. My favorite, I've read it 4 times, was by Mark Manson, Manson, and I got this off Amazon. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Now, it's going to be F***, but it is a fuckingly great book. Mark is just really, he's poignant, he's well-versed, and he just tells you how to get out of that mindset. Now, the next couple of books were suggested. I've not read them, but Brene Brown wrote a book called Daring Greatly. Nathaniel Branden, and I'll list these in the show notes. The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. And lastly is a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, because confidence is built on, thorough, small, and consistent actions. So once you develop a habit, then it becomes, muscle memory, and it goes from there. So think on that. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Daring Greatly, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, and Atomic Habits. And again, I'll list these all in the show notes. So before we go, I want you to think on this. Confidence isn't an overnight switch. It's a habit, right? So we do the habits, we get the muscle memory, we become constant and continuous. We're, instead of mirroring what others are doing, we're setting the stage. The world is a stage. You've heard that before. But now you're the center in the limelight. So whatever you do, people are going to want to mirror that. They're going to want to come up to you. Your confidence will build on that. But don't forget, sometimes your environment changes, right? So you may not be able to hold that stature, that pose, that mentality. And if that does occur, remember, that's that hell no, fuck no moment. Get out, redirect yourself, get back in your mindset, and go again. The world will throw negativity your way, but your mindset is your fortress. Guard it well. Guard yourself, because the brain controls your body. If your brain goes to shit, your body goes to shit. Remember, self-worth isn't given to you by others. It's built by you and reflected by others. Now go out there and own it. Guys, thank you for listening. I appreciate the comments, the emails, the suggestions, the listeners. If you would take a moment, like, rate, review us on whatever platform you're listening to. Thank you for listening. God bless you. I love you. Now get the fuck out of here and be confident. I love you. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.
Allen Woffard has produced this podcast for entertainment purposes. Neither this nor any other podcast he produced constitute legal, medical, marital, sexual, or professional advice. The opinions and views presented by Allen are his own and do not reflect the views or opinions of employers, clients, family, Facebook groupies, promotional sponsors, or baby Jesus. Any health information shared or mentioned as an alternative does not create any patient-physician relationship or other professional relationship between the audience and the presenters. No person listening to any podcast guests from this rocket surgeon should act or refrain from acting based on the content of a podcast without first seeking appropriate professional advice and or counseling. Nor shall the information be used to substitute for professional advice and counseling. As stated earlier, this show is for entertainment purposes, not how to lead or change your life. Do what is best for you or what your spouse approves of. Allen Woffard and all guests of the show expressly disclaim all liability relating to any actions taken or not taken based on any and all contents of this site.